Welcome to
Tamarindo Podcast.
Hosted by me, Brenda Gonzalez, a fitness coach, political nerd, and nonprofit capacity builder.
And me, Delsy Sandoval, a Guatemalan-American licensed therapist and passionate creativity advocate. Together, we're here to uplift our community through powerful conversations with changemakers, creatives, and healers.
Each week on the pod, we talk politics, culture, and personal development. Listeners call Tamarindo the Advocacy and Self-Love Podcast. Vámonos!
Let's start the show! Hello, Tamarindo listeners. I hope you're doing well. Brenda, ¿cómo estás?
I am doing really, really well. I'm excited that we're about to be on break. So y'all, this is a nice little episode, and then we finally get to take a little summer break. So that's what's giving me joy. How about you, Delsy?
You know what? I'm really in the summer vibes right now. Lately, what I've been thinking about is making sure that I plan just as much as I plan during my work life and make sure that I'm executing all of these goals and things like that. I also want to do that for my life outside of work. So I've been really focused on all right, what are the summer things? Like I want to go to the Hollywood Bowl. I want to go kayaking. I want to make sure that I'm making room in my life for a fabulous summer. Fabulous summer. ¿Y tú?
I love that. It makes me think of how I want to spend more time at the beach. So really recently, I was able to ride my bike with Jeff all the way from Lincoln Heights to Venice in LA. People that know the the distances there, that's about 31 miles, and through West Hollywood, through Silver Lake, through all these places. It was super, super cool. So I want to call in more of that. All right. So we've caught up this morning. We've let our listeners know that we're about to go on a break. But before we go on that break, you get to hear this fabulous conversation. Look, Tamarindo's always been about politics above including everything else, right? It's about how we're going to be activists and do well for our community. But we know that national politics has many of us down, right? It has many of us down. So one way to feel inspired is maybe to think about what's happening locally. So today we're going to hear about food equity from a local perspective here in Los Angeles. And of course, the best practices that might be happening here could be carried to other communities. We're going to learn about this issue by speaking to three amazing Latinas. So let me tell you who we have today. So first, we're going to understand the issue of food equity by talking to the Los Angeles Food Policy Council, or LAFPC for short. This is an organization that works to ensure food is healthy, affordable, fair, and sustainable for all. We're going to hear from Alba Velasquez, who leads this organization as the executive director. We're going to hear from Erika Crenshaw, who is co-owner of Sereno Greengrocers, which is a gorgeous grocery store and where we recorded this conversation. And we're going to hear from Jocelyn Ramirez, who I know is a friend of both of us. And she is the plant-forward chef and a pod amigi, Tamarindo amigi. And she's the one that brought us all together. So this is a really great conversation.
I'm really excited for this conversation, Brenda, because I think that food equity is something that toes the line of many different categories of social change, right? Not just your personal health, but the health of your community. And also for people who care more about economic stability than they do about how human beings are feeling, it can also be really economically stimulating to have a healthy workforce or to have healthy people in the community. I'm just unsure why we haven't prioritized this as a community politically. And so to see people like Jocelyn taking the lead on making sure that this is real for Los Angeles, and I really think it can lead the way across the nation.
Yes, absolutely. You all are going to feel a little bit more informed about food equity, about the food supply chain, all the way from who grows your food to who sells you those healthy foods, and why some people have access and why others do not, and what we could do to change that. So you're going to feel inspired by these fantastic women. And just a heads up, like I mentioned, we recorded this at the grocery store. So you might hear, again, this is another place that's on a busy street. So you might hear your regular LA traffic. You might hear a generator, the refrigerator at the grocery store. So a little bit of background noise, but you know what? Worth it to be in community with these fantastic mujeres. So let's hear from those women right now. Well, thank you so much for being here on Tamarindo. We're going to dive right in. I'm going to ask each of you, but I'll start with you, Alba. I want you to tell me what you do and what's your personal why. Why do you do this?
Yeah, I'm the executive director of Los Angeles Food Policy Council. We're a collective impact organization working to make food healthy, affordable, fair, sustainable, and accessible for all. So when it comes to food equity, for me, it's really important. I come from a long history and a deep history in diabetes in my family. My dad in 2009 had like 4 heart attacks in the span of 2 years. And a lot of it was me asking why. Why is it that my family deals with this? Within those 3 years, I have an uncle that passed away. And just a few years ago, I had an aunt that passed away, all diet-related diseases. So I was asking a lot of questions. Why is it that my family has to deal with this? And I don't hear about it from other colleagues. And so it's trying to figure that out and really recognizing that, you know, I come from an immigrant background. My parents worked multiple jobs growing up. My mom worked graveyard shifts. My dad worked 16-hour days at a factory. And realizing that for us, the food that we relied on was frozen food. It was like, what is available, what is easy, what is accessible. And a lot of times we had to stay home all by ourselves as a kids. It was me, my sister, and my brother. And then just trying to, you know, live through that aspect and recognizing that we didn't have access to healthy food. There might have been a grocery store there, but it was also like this like economic access, like how much money do we have to be able to purchase, but also time. How much time did my family have to be able to make, you know, food from scratch? So it's kind of putting all of these different aspects of food equity into one. So for me, that's my why. It's really trying to figure out and recognizing that I'm not the only one. You know, there's a lot of community folks that I run into that have the same struggle, that have the same issues with accessing healthy food options and being able to lead a healthy lifestyle.
Thank you so much. A lot of nodding heads, a lot of relatable topics there. So, Jocelyn, what do you do and what's your personal why?
So I have a food business called Todo Verde that initially I've been doing more on the culinary side with catering and, you know, food pop-ups and things like that throughout the years. But now I have a product line and a cookbook, and I'm really trying to, I know
we have it
here
for
available here for folks to see, but, you know, really trying to grow this product line that really represents culturally like what I want to see on shelf when people look at Mexican cuisine. A lot of times, like, you'll see like spicy mild for taco seasoning or things that just like I would never pick up or purchase as a like Mexican Ecuadorian person. I'm just like, what? Like, why does this even exist? So I wanted to create something that felt like super flavor forward, that hit all those nostalgic notes, but then also as a plant-based person who really resonates with Alba's story, and that's kind of the origin story. You know, I resonate because my family was also dealing with a lot of preventable health issues. My father passed away from cancer that he battled for 17 years. And so, you know, we also have like high blood pressure, diabetes, you name it, like somebody in my immediate family is dealing with something like that. And so for me, it was like, how do we kind of go back to like decolonizing foodways or just eating like, just as simply as possible, but without losing where we are now in terms of like traditional foods within, you know, Mexico, LA and stuff like that, which has evolved over time. Yeah. So obviously, like, we've probably had tacos for generations and, you know, ages. Maybe not carnitas, maybe it was more like foraging local things. But me as a plant-based person, I'm trying to cook tofu, cauliflower, jackfruit, like veggies, and wanted to create something that really like amplifies flavor, that feels very chef driven, and encourage people to eat more whole foods. And so that is kind of my why and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, well,
in a very rambly way.
No, not rambly at all. First of all, we love, I love your spices. It saves dinner all the time at my house, and it's been great to see you evolve. You're a past guest of Tamarindo, so it's just wonderful just to see the way your business has shaped. Okay, so now pass the mic, literally pass the mic to Erika. And Erika, tell us what you do and what is your why?
I am co-owner and operator at the El Sereno Greengrocer, our 1-year-old corner shop tiendita here in Northeast
Happy
LA.
1 year.
Woo-hoo! We made it. And we are here now because of a neighbor's comment of what we should do after we had been stewarding the community garden for several years, and our background and my specific background in education and community organizing. It's like, okay, what are we going to provide, or what can we offer the community that the community wants and needs? We're not gonna impose something of like, this is the answer. It's like, no, what as a community, as a collective, our ancestral practices teach us that it's not one person with the answer, it's everybody comes up with what's best for the community. So when the neighbor said, you should start a grocery store, we were like, we don't know how to do that. And 3 years later, here we are.
Here we are 1 year. And here we are literally, so for listeners, we are literally at the grocery store. We're at the Sereno Greengrocers. So if you hear a fridge back there, if you hear some crunching, that's because we're here in the store. We really wanted to embody food equity and celebrate 1 year. So that's why we're literally here. So, Alba, I want to know a little bit about the Healthy Neighborhood Market Network program, because I think that's where there's intersections here. Yeah. So tell us about that program.
Yeah, so LA Food Policy Council started the Healthy Neighborhood Market Network program in 2013, 2014, around that time, recognizing that there's a lot of communities, specifically when you think of like South LA, East LA, Pico Union, Westlake, that don't have access to the full service grocery store. And so recognizing, okay, we don't have a Kroger, we don't have a Stater Brothers, Ralph's, Albertsons in some of these heavily dense communities. But what we do have is small markets. And so we have a lot of convenience stores, liquor stores. So how do we see these as assets in the communities rather than nuances? A lot of folks are like, this is a liquor store, we should close it down. No, let's work with the store owner and try to figure out how do we help them introduce healthy food items into their business, so then we're increasing access to healthy food. So the Healthy Neighborhood Market Network program is a business development technical assistance program that supports small market store owners in underserved communities become successful healthy food vendors. And so that's assisting them with marketing and design, pricing, profitability, produce management, connecting them to other community-based organizations to support the work, connecting them to resources that might already exist at the government level, but they're not aware of them. Also connecting them to capital, so loan opportunities. A lot of the times our small markets, where the ones that we've worked with are victims of predatory lending, for example. They're taking advantage of because they're, immigrant community themselves. There's a language barrier. There's a lot of different barriers that they face. So how do we come in to be able to give them the resources they need to be a successful, healthy food business? Like Sereno Greengrocers.
I love it.
So we actually started working with El Sereno Greengrocers since you guys opened.
I know,
tell me the story. How did you connect?
We were like, can we be in it? It's like, is your store open? It's like, no, it's not open yet, but we want to be part of it.
We will be. We promise.
Right. So that's one of the key factors that we are so thankful that opportunities like this exist, because we don't know the permitting aspect, the licensing aspect, all the moving pieces. The access to capital is a big deal. Nobody's going to lend to women of color, lesbians, LGBT community any money. We don't have traditional wealth. We don't have traditional generational capital that we can borrow from a family member. We don't look good for banks. We don't have assets. We don't have, and it's like, see ya. And you're right. The only folks that we were able to start off a loan with is a very high interest loan.
Predatory loan, like you described. Wow.
Now, mind you, it has helped us. If it wasn't for that access to that amount of capital, we wouldn't have been able to get started, right? And since then, we've built a team of advisors and mentors that have been able to get us access to grants, get us access to a refi on those loans, right? And so we're working, we still need capital, we're on year one, and in any business plan, by having access to capital is able to provide us to get that start that we needed, right? And we're a year in, like sometimes it's like, woo, we gonna make it? And sometimes it's like, we're doing it. So it's just balancing that unknown and very tightrope of like, but we're here. And then when community comes together, when the Healthy Neighborhood Market tells us, oh, you should connect to this 20-year-old convenience store that's been there. And it's like, oh my God, when we went to La Placita, it's like, you have, and look, in the community, and it's like, I
There's
can't
others
sustain.
that you can connect with and network and the support.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would love to pass the mic to Jocelyn. I want to hear, because what I heard there is just like how helpful it was to have this network of support, learning from others, and just kind of like the journey of a business, starting a business, and like the fear, and then the yes, we're making it, we're not. And I know you can relate to the evolution of your business. So I want to know how you've changed your business, and then how does it connect to Sereno Greengrocers?
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier, like I was doing catering, I was doing pop-ups, I did food for LA Philharmonic venue for the 2 years, like right after the pandemic started, which was kind of crazy and like silly of me, but whatever.
But amazing.
Yeah, but great on paper, everybody, but behind
You
the
don't,
scenes,
they
I
don't
was
know
like,
what's going on behind the scenes.
Dios, me mandó este castigo.
Mi gran culpa.
But like after that, I was just thinking about like how well received the book was, like how many people were cooking from the book, how much further the reach was of connection that could happen with something like that. And so the product line was really like that next evolution of, all right, people are going back to work. They want quick meal solutions. They don't have time, like your family didn't have time. They might have 20 minutes and they have a head of cauliflower and they're like, no quiero comer cauliflower. But as you throw some al pastor on there y vámonos, you know?
Yeah, and it is. I know it's true. It makes everything taste amazing.
Yeah. So that was really like
the mushrooms that I get from the farmer's market. It's more like, yes,
Yeah.
done and done. Tortillas, mushrooms, y todo verde.
yeah, and then una salsita and you're good to go.
There's your new tagline.
Yeah, I know, right? And so like being a part of a market like this one that actually like really cares about the vendors, that is very carefully curating the store, making sure that they're listening to the community, that they're also supporting locally, and that they care about the quality of the ingredients. I shop here. I was just mentioning when I got here, every time I come and drop off an order, I probably buy 3 or 4 times as much as the order was worth and just like stocking up my kitchen, which is crazy, but it is what it is, I love it. But, I was able to do a cooking demo here and had several folks from the community come out and learn more about eating plant-based foods and stuff like that. So I know that it's not just a hub for people to get healthy food, but it's also a place of activation, of community, which I really engage with. And so that for me is like really where I want to take my business, is like continue to grow with, I'm like trying to build it nationwide ideally. And like, yes, maybe get into the Sprouts and the Whole Foods. If you're listening, answer my emails.
This is the podcast
Answer my
that's
emails. Por favor. But, also working with small stores that really, really care. I really want to, do more of that.
It seems very aligned. So I want to go back to you, Alba. Tell us a lot of the listeners here may not be well versed in the subjects of food equity. Like, what does it actually mean, and what is the mission of the organization that you work for, and what is it trying to do around food equity?
Yeah, so when we talk about food equity, it is essentially allowing or giving equitable access to healthy, affordable food to everyone, regardless of your socioeconomic background, regardless of, everything, to be able to allow people to afford things and have access to these things. And what does that mean? So for us, food equity when we talk about food equity, it's surrounding our entire food system. So when we think of food system, it's how food is grown, how food is distributed, how food is consumed, how food is sold, how food is wasted. So really looking at our food system as a comprehensive ecosystem of a lot of different players, and how do we think of equity around all of these systems, in how food impacts nutrition and food access, how it impacts economic development, for example, when we talk about food businesses, and how it impacts the environment. So really kind of all-encompassing when it comes to food. So not only nutrition access, that's a major component, but how is our food system impacting an equitable like environment around food. So making food sustainable, accessible, affordable for all. We do it through a two-pronged approach. There's policy and coalitions and programs and innovation. We talked a lot about our program piece. On our policy side, we bring together what we call working groups. And working groups are multi-sector individuals. They could be business owners, policymakers, community-based organizations, community members, consumers, come together and say, hey, this is what we need to change in LA or in a community to make food equitable. And so we work towards that change. So for example, some of our past wins have been EBT, accepting EBT at all farmers markets.
Oh, I love that.
So that's something that wasn't regulated before. Before, it wasn't accessible, but in 2017, that became a law within the city of LA that every single farmers market that opens needs to enroll people into EBT while also be able to accept EBT. So that's an example of some of the policy work that we focus on.
That is such a great example. You've already given a couple of examples of just like tapping into what's already happening in the community to make a systemic difference.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I want to ask you, Jocelyn, when you think of food equity, what does it mean to you, and how do you plug into all that?
Yeah, I think part of it is definitely access to things, but like sometimes I also think about like if every store was like an Sereno Greengrocer, if there were farmers markets on every street corner, would people actually want to eat that? You know, so a big part of it is also kind of educating folks around, you know, eating healthier and like not thinking that they necessarily have to let go of the traditional foods to eat in a particular way that's better for their lifestyle, for their bodies. So I think that that's like just like another element of food equity is like, how do we have those conversations, which are long conversations. It takes time for people to maybe start to see that their body isn't functioning. We were just talking about this right before the conversation about like just noticing things are different in my body. I'm not feeling as good as I can be. What shifts do I need to make to get to that place where I feel healthy?
And I want to add to that because I really appreciate that perspective, because when we talk about eating healthy, a lot of the times it's the traditional way of eat your kale, your salad,
your acai bowl,
bowl and juices, and it's like, no, there's culturally relevant ways to eat healthy.
Yeah,
so I
we
appreciate
nopales. You know, there's so many things we already eat
that we already
so
eat,
natural.
and I feel like me coming from an immigrant community, it's like you're kind of stripped a lot of the times from the cultural way of eating, because I have to work, I have to rely on the fast food, or I have to rely on these different things. So then you almost lose that piece of you. And so being able to have initiatives that are like, no, you can do this with your own culturally relevant foods. You don't have to adopt the American way or colonial way of eating. Yeah. You can actually do it in a way that's culturally relevant. That's a very key point, because you cannot make a difference in a community, even if you give the access. Like, even if you stock a store with all the healthy food possible, you need people to buy it. You need people to buy into it and be able to adopt it as their habit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Erika, I mean, I'm looking at your store and talk about culturally relevant. Like, this is LA. Your store is LA. Like every shelf represents a community that's part of LA, and you're responsive to the community. So how does food equity play out for you as a grocer, and how do you tap into what the community has in store?
I think I'm happy to piggyback on Alba's comment, because that is the conversation that we have on the daily, right? The agriculture is actually the culture separated through, connected through food, right? That's what agriculture means. So in many places, including us, the last 500 years, all cultures, plural, have been disconnected from the food source. It's happening in Palestine right now, right? There's such trauma connected to our food and how we eat it currently. There's eating habits that are not healthy for a individual body, right? Like there's all these attempts at how to cover or mask or hide dysregulated eating, right? And many of us have experienced or know folks that have these food situations that they can't handle. Patricia is much more versed on this.
A relationship with food,
yes,
right?
Exactly,
it could be as
exactly.
tortured as our relationship with
Yes.
anybody.
Right, right. So that, and then being disconnected from our ancestral roots, where we have the nourishment that we need, that we've been carrying, that we know it in our bones, we know it in our genes of what sustains us. The nopales, everybody's tripping because it's like, oh, that's like a vegan ceviche, a cold cactus nopal salsa, like salad that we have here from one of our vendors. It's delicious, and it's a shortcut for me to make nopales con huevo in the morning because I don't want to cut all that, because I don't want to, it's a lot of prep, it's a lot of work, it's so delicious, and I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So culturally convenient, relevant food is what we have access to, that's still delicious, that still has that flavor, that still has that nourishment, that hits the home chords, right? And we've been disconnected. It's reintroducing. People come in and be like, oh my God, I haven't seen this since I was little. Oh, I haven't had this. Oh, I got to bring my child here because I got to show them that we have bolis here.
Bolis, I love it, bolis.
Yeah.
So all of that is something that
Food sovereignty.
Yeah.
This idea.
Patricia asked me, she's like, what does food equity mean to you? And it's like, people not going hungry. Access to food. And through the whole lifestyle. The agricultural farm workers that tend the land cannot afford the same food that they're cutting every day for hours on end. Like, that is not cool, right?
Yeah.
And here at the Greengrocer, we are conscious of the whole life cycle of the food reproduction and how it's going through the consumption phase, right? So it's we are not the most inexpensive, right? But we are taking measures to take EBT from the get-go to be able to make it accessible for folks to say, yes, this is food that you can nourish yourself with. And we are working with BIPOC farmers that local BIPOC farmers that pay their folks a living wage, that are conscious about how they're supporting and how they're contributing to the nourishment of an entire community, an entire population. That's what we pay attention to, who we have relationship with, how they sustain the food that they grow, how they nourish the land, how they nourish the community, how they nourish themselves, and how it all comes together and makes us a little bit better together in helping each other survive.
I love it. I love it. I want to tell a story. One is that I came and bought some eggs here, and the person selling it to me says, I know the chickens that laid these eggs. I was like, I will buy these eggs. And they were delicious.
No, and I will say that, like, this is also a space where if somebody came in and they're like, oh, I haven't tried that since I was a kid and unsure, you're like the first one to like crack it open and be like, try it. Try it. Like, taste
Yeah, you're
it.
not going to get that at Ralph's, y'all.
No.
That's not going to
Which
happen
I
at
love.
Albertsons.
You're like, oh, I'm trying out this new vendor. Try all these nuts and try all this, It's like such a great opportunity to really, like, as a community, tap in and say, this is great. Like, I came in earlier and I was like, oh, I tried that one thing and I liked it. I didn't love it. And you were like, oh, maybe it needs a little, But it's like, I have that communication with you and you're like bringing in something that I am going to eat, that I'm going to care about. Yeah, it's all around. It's been great.
Well, this has been such an awesome conversation. I hope we've converted some folks to start buying Todo Verde, getting their seasoning, to come shop at Sereno Greengrocers. We always
donate
to
to LA.
donate. Yes, and we're
Policy
going to end.
Council.
I definitely want to end with you with a call to action and how we can support, because listeners right now are probably recognizing the investment, the value of an organization like yours, and seeing it in action with both of you. So I want to ask, we normally ask our guests these 3 rapid fire questions, but what I'm going to do is have each of you take one. All right, I'm going to start with you, Erika. What is one thing that goes in la basura, something you want to cancel, something you're done with?
Capitalism.
Yes. You know what? Rudy put capitalism in la basura when he was a guest on the
It's the root of all evil.
It really is.
I was actually in Chicago last week, and my Lyft driver was like talking about the source of climate change, and then we were kind of debating, and then I was like, it all comes back to capitalism. You know, everything does. Like,
Basura. Collective basura. We agree. We agree. Okay, and then I'm going back to my notes. I want to make sure I get it right. Okay, for Alba, what is one thing you're celebrating? What gets your matraca? What are you celebrating?
Yeah, so we're celebrating that LAFPC got a healthy food financing opportunity to support more food businesses like greengrocers with access to capital and grants. This is like the first of its kind in California and nationwide when you're focusing on capital access for specifically food businesses that have the goal of bringing in healthy food to communities. So we're really excited to be able to support more businesses or support businesses more deeper with access to capital when it's focused on healthy food and grants.
Yeah, because we're still in capitalism, so you need that access to capital.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, yes, big matraca to celebrate that. Okay, and Jocelyn, what is your source of inspiration this week?
I think the big source of my inspiration is my mom, because she's just such a little warrior, you know, and like just always like dealing with so many challenges like many of our Latina moms, and just still so resilient, perseveres, and still finds joy in life. I've spent a lot of time with her in the last week. It was her birthday. She wanted to go to I Love Micheladas First Fridays and dance to banda.
It's so much fun. She's got great taste.
Oh yeah, and like
it's so much fun.
Yeah, and then we like spent Father's Day at Redondo, and like just a lot of time with her reminds me of like I'm trying to hustle and do all these things, and at the end of the day, it's like you get older, and it's the little things in life that matter. So she's always a big inspiration for me.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Okay, I want to end with you, Alba. What are the ways that listeners can get involved with the Los Angeles Food Policy Council?
Yes, so I talked a little bit about our working groups. We do have a series of working groups. If there's a specific issue area that listeners are interested in, to check out our website, www.goodfoodla.org, and look into the working groups if they want to be involved. So that's an avenue. We also have our Foodscape series coming up. So follow us on Instagram, which is LA Good Food, hashtag LA Good Food. At LA Good Food, I forget. It's not hashtag.
Whatever it is, we will link it in the show notes. We will let people know.
But we have a Foodscape series, so these are conversations around food, intersection of food, people, and the land. So attend one of our events, and of course, we're a nonprofit, so looking for support through donations. Again, you can visit our website to support our regular programming, the support we give to small markets like Greengrocers and La Placita La Oaxaqueña in Pico Union, and Lupita's Market in Westlake, Community MacArthur Park area. So if there's any support that we can get to continue our programming, that would be great.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This was lovely. I really appreciated spending time with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Tamarindo Podcast is Brenda Gonzalez and Delsy Sandoval. We are also the show's executive producers. Karina Riveroll of Sonoro Media provides production support. Jeff Ricards wrote our theme song. The best way to support our work is to rate and review Tamarindo Podcast or share an episode with a friend. Get in touch with us at tamarindopodcast.com.